What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to do some quick impressions on Tomb Raider 1 through 3 Remastered, and I do say quick, and I'm going to mean quick. So, firstly, I want to thank Aspire for providing me a code for the game. I really appreciate it, and this game is coming out in kind of a packed week with Banishers, this, and Skull and Bones, all to various degrees of quality, right? But what I really want to stress and focus on is, okay, the remastered elements to it, right? Tomb Raider, now I've never played the original Tomb Raider games. I've been pretty honest, about that in the past. So going into these, it's like, oh my God, I've seen videos, of course, the legend of Lara Croft, and I've played the newer ones, but to see, kind of where it's come from or where it began, right? Pretty darn cool. Obviously, the franchise is iconic. Obviously, the three of these games is quite iconic, right? And it still has a community to this day. There's speedrunners that, go through it, and there's quite a group there. So, in terms of what they did for this remaster, I think they really achieved exactly what you need to do for that word. Not a remake, a remaster. The game looks unbelievably better than the original. And I've even seen people, comments, and I completely echo it. What you see now, right, actually behind me, right, like these character models of Laura, when you're playing it in the game or you see a trailer, you see, just a picture, it feels like this is what she always looked like, doesn't it? I saw some people spreading that on Twitter where it's like, have our eyes and brains, like, have they been deceiving us for so long? Because I always kind of saw her, and maybe it's because of promotional things or whatever, but the truth is, this game has a really nice feature, and I know it's been used in other games before, so it's not necessarily new, but it's a really great feature, is just being able to quickly select and swap between old and new, right? What did it look like? Any scene. Any part of the game, you press a button and you get to see what it looked like back in the 90s versus what it looks like right now. And it is staggering, honestly, how much better it looks now. You're not going to fool anybody into thinking that this game came out this year, but the jump it really is the best part, I think, of the remaster, right? Bringing it up to as close to today's standards as you can through the visuals for the remaster. And then, you know what? The rest of it, largely leaving it alone. Now, there's small things here and there, and there's some almost quality of life-like things where they change, or they didn't change, they added, I should say, right? So you got the tank controls, which I want to talk about in a second. You have the tank controls, and you have like a more modern control system. Now, I tried to do the tank controls, so I actually didn't even attempt the modern. From what I've seen online, the modern, sometimes the camera gets a little spun around, gets a little messy. The tank controls, the camera can get messy as well, but I think overall, it seems they've done a pretty good job of, hey, if you're not into the tank stuff, it's designed for that, absolutely, but you could try the newer scheme and, see how it goes. That does lead me to, and it's not necessarily a weakness, but it's more of like, this is a specific thing. You might assume this, right? Tomb Raider Remastered. If you were never a fan of the original trilogy, I highly, highly doubt you'll be a fan now. I'd also like to say that if this is your first attempt, your first jump in, it is jarring. It is tough because those tank controls. And overall, this game is very specific of where it wants you to move Laura, going through locations, finding things, levers and opening doors and platforming, right? Doing your spin kind of jumps. Pretty difficult. And I only say that because, I'm having a very hard time. I'm not going to, pretend like I'm just sailing through it. I'm having a very hard time. I'm enjoying it, and I'm personally looking at this more of, gaming history, right? It's cool to experience. I've never experienced these games, so is this the best way to do it? It probably is. Because you can go back and look at, just by pressing the one button, right? You can see what the game looked like back in the day. It is, I would say, control-wise and just the quality of life updates, it is the best version of these three games, and you have them all together, right? So it really is the best package deal. I guess I'm spending so much time on this to just say, is this for you? Well, it really depends on the player, right? If you never liked the originals, obviously no way. But if this is your first attempt, maybe you played the newer, which I did, right? It was the battle between the new Tomb Raider games and Uncharted, and they would use kind of each other's ideas. It almost felt like they were in a war with each other. Fine. Honestly, I think they benefited from it, okay, to be honest with you. So if you played those, like me, and you say, hey, I want to play these for the first time, just expect a game that will not hold your hand, that kind of gets right into it. Like, it's got the cutscenes, it's got the setup, and then you're in and you got to fend for yourself. Okay. Now there is like training things. You can go into her house and you could do some like training procedure like things. It gets you into the control feel, but I really feel like you just have to kind of get into the action. You have to see the different platforms and like how the game wants you to do these jumps in order to obviously like push the game forward. You're going to have to do that, right? The tutorials can only teach you so much. So honestly, like that's kind of where I want to leave it. I think this is the best version of these games. I think there's still legendary games that, the history of it can't be overlooked. I don't want to spend too long on like what the impact of Tomb Raider was, but very impactful to the industry, very important to the industry, and this is the best way of playing it. It's just, are you going to enjoy it? Well, it depends, right? It depends on if you're used to these kind of like tank controls. They're not new. Like, obviously, tank controls, I think, were a little bit bigger back then than they are now, and it's going to take some getting used to, right? I don't think it's going to take the most getting used to. I saw people kind of complaining on other reviews, people, really harping on the controls, saying they're too hard. I think you can get it. And so it just comes down to your willpower or if you want to do it, right? So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.